Welcome to your personalized deep dive into today's top security and tech news. Um, Seems like everyone is upping their security game, from individual users to
Mhm.
global organizations. But cybercrime continues to evolve alongside these improvements. We see both good news and bad news in the fight against ransomware. Let's jump in. One story that caught my eye involves Kaspersky's discovery of new malware targeting smartphone users. It's incredibly sneaky.
This malware utilizes optical character recognition, or OCR technology, to scan your photo library. It searches for screenshots of cryptocurrency wallet recovery phrases, essentially. It aims to steal your crypto just from a screenshot.
That's alarming, especially since Kaspersky found this malware lurking on both Google Play and Apple's App Store. This isn't some obscure corner of the internet. This is mainstream. It makes you wonder, how do we stay ahead of these evolving threats when they're hiding in plain sight?
That's the crucial question. This discovery highlights the need for increased awareness and vigilance, even when downloading apps from supposedly trusted sources. Always scrutinize app permissions, check reviews, and be cautious about granting access to sensitive data.
It's a digital minefield out there. Let's shift gears to another security concern: data breaches. UK law firms are experiencing a surge in these incidents, and the numbers are staggering.
Research from NetDocuments points to a 39% increase in data breaches at UK law firms compared to the previous year. Their analysis of Information Commissioner's Office data revealed over 2,200 cases. Shockingly, almost 8 million people had their data exposed in these breaches.
That's a massive amount of sensitive information. You'd expect law firms to have top-notch security measures in place.
You would, wouldn't you? This emphasizes the critical need for robust security measures across all sectors. No industry is immune to these threats. It's a stark reminder that data breaches can happen anywhere, and complacency is not an option.
Okay, so we've got sneaky smartphone malware and widespread data breaches. Let's talk about the ransomware situation. You mentioned classrooms being targeted. What's the story there?
Sadly, there's been an uptick in ransomware attacks on educational institutions. Schools store a wealth of sensitive data, from student records to financial information, making them attractive targets for cybercriminals, unfortunately. Their security infrastructure often lags behind other sectors, making them more vulnerable.
It's disheartening to see attackers targeting places of learning. It feels like a violation of trust. But there is a glimmer of hope. The overall volume of ransomware payments seems to be down.
That's correct. Chainalysis reports a significant 35% drop in payments compared to the previous year. This positive trend can be attributed to several factors, including increased international collaboration, law enforcement crackdowns, and more victims refusing to pay the ransom.
It's encouraging to see these efforts making a difference. However, while the criminals might be getting less money, are they still achieving a high success rate with their attacks?
Unfortunately, yes. Chainalysis also reports that 2024 saw a record number of successful ransomware attacks, exceeding 5,000. What's interesting, though, is that only about 30% of victims who negotiated with the attackers ended up paying the ransom.
So they're hitting more targets,
Yeah.
but fewer people are giving in to their demands. Does that mean ransomware is becoming less effective as a tactic?
It's becoming more difficult for attackers to profit from ransomware. Victims are becoming more aware that paying the ransom doesn't guarantee data recovery. Also, law enforcement agencies are getting better at disrupting ransomware operations.
Speaking of disruptions, there's a story that showcases the extreme lengths some authorities are going to combat cybercrime. We're talking about Thailand cutting off power and internet access to certain areas of Myanmar.
This is a bold and controversial move aimed at disrupting scam operations. These so-called scam compounds located near the Thai-Myanmar border are heavily guarded facilities where people are forced to run online scams. By cutting off their utilities, Thai authorities hope to cripple these operations.
Cutting off essential utilities sounds like a drastic measure. Are there concerns about potential collateral damage to innocent civilians in those areas?
This action raises important questions about the potential impact on innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. It also highlights the challenges governments face when trying to combat transnational cybercrime. Balancing effective law enforcement with the protection of innocent individuals is a delicate and complex task.
Let's shift focus to individual security. Passkeys have been generating buzz. What are they, and how are they changing the authentication landscape?
Passkeys are being hailed as the potential successors to traditional passwords, offering a more secure and user-friendly alternative. Instead of relying on remembering complex strings of characters, passkeys utilize biometric authentication, such as fingerprint or face scans, or a physical security key.
That sounds far more convenient than juggling countless passwords. Are these passkeys widely available?
Major companies like Apple, Google, and Microsoft are integrating passkey support across their platforms. You might have already encountered the option to use them on certain apps or websites. This wider adoption signals a significant step toward a passwordless future, potentially simplifying our digital lives while enhancing security.
We see a push for enhanced security at both the individual and organizational levels. Yet, new threats are always emerging.
Absolutely. Security is a continuous process, not a destination. The evolution of technology inevitably brings new vulnerabilities and attack vectors. Staying ahead of the curve requires constant vigilance and adaptation.
Speaking of evolving threats, let's delve into artificial intelligence, specifically AI-generated voices. This technology presents a double-edged sword.
AI-generated voices are becoming increasingly realistic, blurring the line between human and machine-generated audio. While this opens up exciting possibilities in fields like accessibility and entertainment, it also presents a new avenue for malicious actors.
Think about the potential for deepfakes. Imagine a scenario where someone creates a fake audio recording of your CEO making damaging statements. The potential damage to reputation and trust is immense.
Exactly. As AI voice technology advances, distinguishing between real and fake audio will become increasingly difficult. This raises concerns about misinformation, manipulation, and the erosion of trust in audio and video content.
So, as everyday internet users, how can we protect ourselves in a world where we can't even trust what we hear? It feels like we need to develop internal lie detectors.
That's an apt analogy. We need to be more discerning consumers of information, critically evaluate sources, look for signs of manipulation, and rely on trusted fact-checking resources. Developing a healthy skepticism towards online content is crucial in this age of AI-generated everything.
On a lighter note, there's a story about a hacker getting caught in a rather amusing way. The story involves an 18-year-old hacker known as NATO Hub.
This young hacker managed to infiltrate high-profile organizations like NATO, the U.S. Army, and various Spanish institutions. What's remarkable, or perhaps foolish, is how he was eventually caught.
18 years old, that's barely out of high school. Did he leave a trail of digital breadcrumbs?
Ironically, his downfall was his own ego. NATO Hub boasted about his exploits on online forums, even offering stolen information for sale. Talk about a rookie mistake. His arrogance ultimately led to his capture.
It seems he practically handed himself over to the authorities. This case highlights an important point. Even highly skilled hackers can be brought down by simple overconfidence.
It also underscored the effectiveness of international collaboration in cybercrime investigations. This case involved cooperation between Spanish authorities, Europol, U.S. Homeland Security, and the National Cryptologic Center.
Global cooperation is essential to combating cybercrime, especially as these threats transcend national borders. Speaking of international collaboration, there's news from the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance.
The Five Eyes, comprising Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and the US, have released a series of documents aimed at helping organizations secure their network edge devices. We're talking about firewalls, routers, VPN gateways, IoT devices, the front line of digital defense.
Okay, so we have spy agencies sharing their expertise to bolster our online safety. It's an interesting development.
This reflects a growing recognition of the importance of cybersecurity across all levels of society. The Five Eyes understand that a secure network edge is vital for protecting critical infrastructure and sensitive data, benefiting individuals and organizations alike.
Today's news is a mixed bag. Sneaky smartphone malware, data breaches, ransomware concerns, and the complexities of international cybercrime. Yet, we also see positive signs like decreased ransomware payments and increased international cooperation.
It's a dynamic landscape, constantly evolving. The key takeaway is the need for continuous adaptation, awareness, and vigilance in the face of these threats.
Absolutely. Now, let's turn our attention to the corporate world and examine the challenges CISOs face in this ever-changing threat landscape.
A recent Splunk study reveals a concerning trend. It seems a significant number of CSOs are feeling pressure to downplay or even conceal compliance issues, a development that raises serious concerns. 1 in 5 CSOs admitted feeling this pressure, a concerning statistic that highlights a potential clash between business priorities and security best practices. Transparency is crucial when it comes to security and compliance.
It's concerning that CSOs feel pressured to prioritize business interests over compliance. It creates an ethical dilemma for those tasked with safeguarding an organization's data and systems.
CSOs often find themselves caught between a rock and a hard place. They're responsible for protecting their organizations, but also have a legal and ethical obligation to report security incidents and compliance violations.
What happens when those responsibilities clash? It sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It can be. Some CSOs might prioritize company loyalty over compliance, even if it means putting their organizations at risk.
That's a dangerous game to play. Ignoring or covering up security issues can lead to more significant problems down the line. Eventually, the truth surfaces, often with severe consequences.
Absolutely. We've seen cases where CEOs faced personal liability for failing to report security incidents. The legal and reputational damage can be substantial for both the individual and the organization.
How can CEOs navigate these complex pressures and prioritize ethical practices without jeopardizing their careers?
Building a strong security culture within the organization is essential. CISOs need full support from their leadership teams, where compliance is viewed as a shared responsibility, not solely the CISO's burden.
It sounds like fostering an environment that values transparency and accountability is key. Employees should feel safe reporting security concerns without fearing negative repercussions.
Exactly. CSOs need the authority to make difficult decisions without undue pressure from executives who might prioritize short-term gains over long-term security.
The Splunk study also highlighted that a significant number of CISOs would consider whistleblowing if their organizations ignored compliance requirements.
That's a powerful statement reflecting the integrity of many CISOs. They're willing to take a stand against unethical behavior, even if it means risking their jobs.
It's encouraging to see that level of commitment to ethical practices. However, it's disheartening that some security professionals face such pressure. No one should have to choose between their career and doing what's right.
I agree. Fostering a culture of ethical cybersecurity practices is paramount. Security needs to be everyone's responsibility, from the top down.
We've established that CISOs need support and empowerment. What about the practical challenges they face? The constant influx of new technologies and regulations must be overwhelming.
The threat landscape is ever evolving. CISOs are expected to stay ahead of the curve, requiring knowledge of the latest attack vectors, security tools, and compliance frameworks.
Fine.
It's a demanding role.
It sounds like they're expected to be cybersecurity superheroes, constantly battling new villains and mastering new gadgets.
It's a fitting analogy. Adding to the challenge are budget constraints, staffing shortages, and a lack of understanding from executives who may not fully grasp the complexities of cybersecurity.
Despite these challenges, the role of a CISO is critical. They play a vital role in protecting our data, privacy, and digital infrastructure. Providing them with adequate support and resources is essential.
I couldn't agree more. Investing in cybersecurity is not optional. It's a necessity. This investment extends beyond purchasing the latest security tools. It involves creating a culture of security awareness, fostering collaboration between IT and security teams, and empowering CISOs to lead effectively.
Well said. Now, let's discuss a story that hits close to home for anyone who enjoys spending time in the kitchen. It seems even our beloved kitchen appliances aren't immune to cyber attacks.
The recent Thermomix data breach is a perfect example. Vorwerk, the manufacturer of the popular Thermomix kitchen appliance, announced that hackers gained unauthorized access to user data through their online recipe forum.
Wait, so even my smart kitchen appliance can be hacked? What kind of information was compromised in this breach?
Vorwerk confirmed the compromised data included names, addresses, birth dates, phone numbers, email addresses, and even cooking preferences. It's a reminder that any device connected to the internet, even seemingly innocuous appliances, can be a potential target for cybercriminals.
That's unnerving. You wouldn't expect your kitchen appliance to be a gateway for hackers. Did Vorwerk disclose how many users were affected by this breach?
Reports indicate the leaked database contained information on around 3 million Thermomix users, with approximately a third residing in Germany. It's a significant breach that underscores the expanding attack surface in our increasingly interconnected world.
You'd assume a company known for high-quality appliances would have robust security measures in place.
It serves as a stark reminder that any device or system connected to the internet can be vulnerable. As we become more reliant on smart appliances and IoT devices, the potential for cyber attacks grows exponentially.
It seems we've moved beyond worrying about computers and smartphones. Now it's refrigerators, thermostats, even kitchen appliances. The Internet of Things has expanded the threat landscape significantly.
The Internet of Things presents both opportunities and risks. We need to be mindful of the security implications of these connected devices and take proactive steps to protect ourselves.
So, what can we do? Are we doomed to live in a world where our toasters are spying on us?
It's not quite that dystopian. We can take steps to mitigate these risks. Start by understanding the types of data your smart appliances collect and how that data is used and shared.
Does that mean reading those lengthy and often tedious privacy policies?
It's worth the effort. You might be surprised by the amount of information these devices gather about your habits and preferences. Knowledge is power when it comes to protecting your privacy.
Besides being aware of data collection practices, what other measures can we take to secure our smart appliances?
Changing default passwords is crucial. Many smart appliances come with weak or easily guessable passwords. Develop a habit of changing them to something strong and unique.
It's a basic security practice, but easily overlooked, especially with devices we don't typically think of as traditional computers.
Keeping your device's firmware updated is another vital step. Manufacturers frequently release updates that patch security vulnerabilities. Install these updates promptly to stay ahead of potential exploits.
So, it's similar to updating software on computers and smartphones, a fundamental practice for maintaining security.
If you're particularly concerned about security, consider isolating your smart appliances on a separate network segment. This limits potential damage if one of your devices is compromised.
That's a practical tip for enhancing home network security. Now, let's return to the corporate world and discuss a new ransomware attack targeting AWS S3 buckets.
This is a concerning development. Amazon Web Services, or AWS, is a leading cloud provider, and S3 buckets are a widely used storage service. This ransomware specifically targets misconfigured S3 buckets, encrypting their contents and demanding payment for decryption.
It sounds like this attack exploits common security oversights in cloud environments. What makes this particular attack noteworthy?
The attackers use a clever technique to evade detection, leveraging the AWS Lambda service to execute malicious code. Lambda is a serverless computing platform that allows you to run code without managing servers.
So, they're essentially using AWS's own tools against them.
It's a stark reminder that even the most sophisticated cloud platforms can be vulnerable if not configured correctly.
What measures can organizations take to protect themselves from this ransomware? Is it as simple as strengthening S3 bucket permissions?
Tightening S3 bucket permissions is a critical first step. Organizations should review their configurations and restrict access appropriately, but other security best practices are also essential. Implementing multi-factor authentication for all user accounts adds an extra layer of protection. Enabling logging and monitoring tools helps detect suspicious activity early on. Regularly backing up data ensures recovery options if an attack occurs.
It sounds like a multi-layered approach. Combining strong access controls with proactive monitoring and threat detection is crucial for mitigating this threat.
Exactly. And a robust incident response plan is vital for quick and effective action in case of an attack.
You mentioned serverless computing earlier. This technology is gaining popularity, but it presents unique security challenges.
Serverless computing offers benefits like scalability and cost-effectiveness, but introduces new security considerations. One challenge is the shared responsibility model.
What does shared responsibility mean in this context?
In traditional cloud environments, the provider secures the underlying infrastructure, while the customer secures their own applications and data.
That division of responsibility seems straightforward.
Serverless computing blurs those lines. While the provider manages the infrastructure and execution environment, the customer remains responsible for the security of their code and its interactions with other services.
So, it's more than just securing your own applications. Understanding how your code fits into the larger serverless ecosystem is crucial.
Serverless environments are dynamic and ephemeral, with functions rapidly spinning up and down, making it harder to track and monitor security events.
It sounds challenging to secure something constantly in flux. What are some best practices for securing serverless applications?
Minimizing the attack surface is key. Carefully consider the permissions your functions require and grant only the minimum necessary access.
So, the principle of least privilege applies here as well.
Strong authentication and authorization mechanisms are also essential. You need to control who can invoke your functions and what actions they can perform.
It seems securing serverless applications shares similarities with securing traditional applications, but with added complexities specific to the serverless environment.
You need visibility into your serverless environment, monitor logs, track function invocations, and watch for suspicious activities.
Proactivity and staying ahead of potential threats seem to be paramount in this space.
Security is an ongoing process, not a one-time fix. You need to continuously evaluate and adapt your serverless security posture to the changing threat landscape.
Throughout our discussion, a recurring theme emerges: the importance of a strong security culture.
It's arguably the most critical aspect of any organization's security posture. Technology and tools are essential, but they're only part of the solution. You need to cultivate an environment where security is everyone's responsibility.
So fostering a sense of shared ownership and accountability for cybersecurity is key.
Exactly. This involves education, training,
Hmm.
and clear communication. Employees need to understand the importance of security, the associated risks, and their role in mitigating them.
It's more than just telling people to change their passwords. It's about empowering them to actively participate in securing the organization.
It's about building a culture of trust and transparency, where employees feel comfortable reporting security incidents and raising concerns without fear of reprisal.
Trust and open communication are the foundation of a robust security culture. When employees feel valued and empowered, they're more likely to be proactive and vigilant about security.
Given the evolving threat landscape, the challenges CSOs face, and the importance of a strong security culture, what do you think is the most significant security threat facing organizations today?
It's a crucial question.
While specific threats constantly evolve, the biggest threat is complacency. Organizations that become too comfortable with their current security posture or fail to adapt to the changing landscape are most vulnerable.
So, the biggest threat isn't a specific technology or attack, it's a mindset.
Complacency can breed a false sense of security, leading to a lack of vigilance, and underinvestment in necessary resources to stay ahead. It's a dangerous trap.
That's a sobering thought. Security is a continuous journey, not a destination. It demands constant vigilance, adaptation, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
I completely agree. Let's move on to a story that highlights how threat actors are becoming more inventive with their attack strategies. We're talking about the Lazarus Group, a notorious North Korean hacking group, and their latest scheme targeting job seekers on LinkedIn.
This is the one where they lure unsuspecting victims with fake job offers, right? It's like a digital spiderweb, promising a great opportunity, but then you're caught in their trap.
That's an accurate analogy. The Lazarus Group sends messages on LinkedIn offering attractive job opportunities, often in fields like cryptocurrency or travel. They engage with potential victims, request resumes, and then share a link to a seemingly legitimate repository containing a project demo.
It all appears genuine at first. What's the hidden danger?
The demo contains a malicious JavaScript info stealer. When the victim runs it, the malware executes, stealing browser credentials, cryptocurrency wallet data, and other sensitive information.
That's insidious, so we need to be cautious about links on websites. And now job offers too. The job market is challenging enough without these added threats.
We need to be vigilant on all fronts. Don't blindly trust unsolicited job offers, even if they appear to come from reputable companies or recruiters.
What red flags should job seekers look out for?
Be wary of vague job descriptions, requests for personal information early in the process, and pressure to download or run files.
If something feels off, trust your instincts. It's better to miss an opportunity than become a cyber attack victim.
If you're unsure, verify the offer's legitimacy through official company channels.
It's unfortunate that we have to be so cautious online, but that's the reality we face. Let's conclude our deep dive with a story that's both reassuring and surprising. It seems that even in our cloud-centric world, on-premises security solutions aren't going away just yet.
You're referring to the new security features in Windows Server 2025. Microsoft hasn't forgotten on-premises users. They've introduced significant enhancements, especially for Active Directory security.
So there's still a place for traditional server infrastructure. It's not all about migrating everything to the cloud.
Many organizations benefit from a hybrid approach, combining on-premises and cloud solutions. Microsoft recognizes this with their new security features.
What are some highlights of Windows Server 2025's security enhancements?
One major improvement is mandatory encryption for all lightweight directory access protocol, or LDAP connections. LDAP is a widely used directory service protocol, but also a target for attackers. Enforcing encryption makes it much harder for attackers to eavesdrop on or tamper with sensitive directory data.
It's like adding a lock to the Active Directory database.
Another notable feature is support for randomly generated passwords for machine accounts. This makes it far more difficult for attackers to guess or brute force these accounts, which often manage access to critical systems and data.
Strengthening the weakest links in the chain.
Windows Server 2025 also enhances the patching process, simplifying system updates with the latest security fixes. They've introduced hot patching, allowing updates without system reboots.
That's a valuable improvement, especially for servers needing constant uptime. It seems Microsoft is prioritizing on-premises security.
Security isn't one size fits all. The optimal approach depends on each organization's unique needs and requirements.
We've explored a wide range of topics in this deep dive, from smartphone malware to DORA compliance and the surprising resilience of on-premises security solutions. It's a complex and ever-changing landscape. But one thing remains constant. Security is a journey, not a destination. We need to stay informed, remain vigilant, and adapt to evolving threats. Most importantly, we need to foster a culture of security awareness and shared responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility to protect our digital assets and create a safer online experience. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay safe out there.